I'm the reticent vampire of the ninth arrondissement. I walk the night, capturing disappointment and regret. Wait, stop the day. We should get every detail right.
When the second season of Interview with the Vampire finally arrived, it brought with it a wave of new revelations and deeper explorations into the lives of our immortal protagonists. The story continues to center on Louis de Pointe du Lac, the vampire who has given his life well, his eternal unlife to recounting his story through the eyes of the journalist Daniel Malloy. In Season 2, the narrative expands beyond what we thought we knew. Now Louis, shaped by centuries of longing, loss, and blood, moves beyond his earlier confines and begins the search for truths that have long haunted him. The season opens by picking up threads left at the end of Season 1. The uneasy equilibrium between Louis and Lestat de Liancourt, the child vampire Claudia, and the swirling intrigue of immortal families, secrets, betrayals. That familiar architecture remains, but the stakes are higher, the geography broader, and the emotional weight ever greater. In terms of cast and characters, we see some important changes. Claudia, the vampire child whose very existence defies nature, is now played by a new actor. That recasting marks a significant shift. The production announced ahead of Season 2 that due to unforeseen circumstances, the original actor would not return in the role, and the character is now portrayed by Delainey Hayles. That switch could have been jarring, but fans have noted the performance brings fresh dimensions to Claudia, her unattached immortality, her frustration at being eternally trapped in a child's body, and her desire to find meaning beyond the servitude she has known. Meanwhile, Louis remains in the care of actor Jacob Anderson, and Lestat remains as the flamboyant and dangerous sire played by Sam Reed. The journalist Daniel Malloy, the narrator and the framing device, continues to play his part in unraveling this story of blood and eternity. Another character brought more focus in Season 2, Armand. Earlier, shadowy, in this season, he steps more into the light, interacting with Louis and complicating the old relationships. The cast expansion also introduced new blood of a literal and figurative kind, taking the story to Europe and to a new vampire theater troupe that brings its own flavor of seduction and menace. Release-wise, the second season had been much anticipated. It premiered on the network platform in May 2024, with 8 episodes covering this new chapter. Viewers were able to follow Louis into the theater of vampire politics, the winding streets of 1940s Paris, and the unholy glamour of the undead world far beyond New Orleans. Later, the season became available globally when it hit the streaming platform in late September 2025, making it accessible to a broader audience and marking a major moment for the show's distribution. This streaming release gave new watchers a chance to catch up and old fans an opportunity to revisit the season's developments. The release timing also ties into the larger promotional arc of the show, entering its Immortal universe phase, where each new season is not just a self-contained story, but part of a bigger tapestry. Plot-wise, Season 2 is ambitious. Starting where the first season left off, we follow Louis and Claudia as they abandon their New Orleans base and set their sights on Europe. Their destination is Paris, specifically a theatrical vampire troupe called the Théâtre des Vampires. This shift to 1940s Paris gives the show a fresh aesthetic, the glow of old theater lights, the decadent excess of post-war nightlife, the hidden corridors of power among vampires. The Théâtre des Vampires is not merely a backdrop, it's an institution, led by Armand, where the rules of the undead are both celebrated and transgressed. Louis finds himself drawn into this world, and Claudia sees opportunity for power, for community, for purpose. But as always with Immortals, the cost is steep. The season dives deep into the question of what it means to be eternal, what it means to pigeonhole someone into a child body forever, what it means to serve, rebel, love, and terrify. Louis's relationships shift. His bond with Lestat is challenged, his connection with Claudia evolves, and his budding interest in Armand suggests new loyalties, new betrayals. Meanwhile, the theater troupe, while offering refuge and new identity, also carries secrets. Those secrets ripple outward, connecting to the interview thread with Daniel Malloy, revealing that not all that Louis has said is entirely candid or entirely true. Critically, the season has been praised for its setting shift and richer character work. The move from New Orleans to Paris was widely seen as a smart choice. The change of scenery gives the story room to breathe and expand, and layers of gothic decadence and theatrical vampiric ritual feel more pronounced. Reviews note that the second season deepens the queer undercurrent of the original material, making the romance and power dynamics more explicit, more textured, and more dangerous. The interplay among Louis, Lestat, and Armand takes on new intensity. The child vampire scenario of Claudia continues to unsettle, and the framing interview structure, with Malloy pushing against Louis's narratives, gives the season a metatexture. What is being told, what is being hidden, what is being spun. One of the most talked about moments is the final scene between Louis and Lestat. It is emotionally intense, evocative, haunting, and apparently impossible to shake. Critics and fans alike have commented on how powerful that interaction is, the culmination of decades of dependency, desire, resentment, betrayal. Some reviews suggest the scene reframes everything that came before, challenging viewers to reconsider Louis's narrative reliability, the nature of his love for Lestat, and Lestat's significance to Louis's identity. For many viewers, it lingered long after the episode ended and became a subject of discussion most weeks later. From a production standpoint, this season underscores the larger strategy of the Immortal universe of Anne Rice's works. The show is no longer just a standalone adaptation, it's a pillar in a broader interconnected narrative. The second season, by broadening geography and cast and by deepening mythology, positions the series to segue into future installments where characters, covens, lore, and conflicts will cross paths. There has even been mention of crossovers or links with other adaptations in the same universe, signaling a franchise-scale design rather than a closed narrative. Streaming milestones matter too. The season's placement on the streaming platform on September 30, 2025, meant that internationally the series gained a major boost. The timing aligned with many markets' anticipation of horror/gothic drama content for the fall, giving the show a renewed pulse of visibility and likely increasing its viewer base. This also strengthens the case for future seasons and spin-offs. When you can show that the audience is responding globally, the network and producers can justify bigger budgets, broader story arcs. Looking ahead, although Season 2 provides closure in some respects, it also opens doors. The end of the season leaves some questions unanswered about Claudia's destiny, about Louis's autonomy, about Lestat's fate, about the depth of Armand's ambitions. With production already moving towards Season 3, where the focus shifts to Lestat himself, the groundwork laid in Season 2 is clearly intended to transition into a new phase of the story. Viewers who tune into Season 2 are not merely watching an isolated installment. They're witnessing the pivot from Louis's story to Lestat's story, from the past to what is to come. To sum up, this season of Interview with the Vampire takes the familiar vampire mythos and deepens it with emotional, cultural, aesthetic, and narrative sophistication. The change of settings, the recasting of key characters, the broadening of the universe, the technical production values all contribute to a season that is less about immediate shock and more about the lasting resonance of immortality, desire, and power. For fans of the series, it offers both spectacle and introspection. For newcomers, it presents an entry into a world of dark romance, horror, and gothic grandeur that has never looked or sounded better. With the streaming release, it's easier than ever to dive into the second chapter, and when you do, be ready to question the stories you're told, the ones you tell yourself, and how the undead among us might just reflect our most human anxieties about time, love, and legacy.